back to the show. Today we have Garett Levy. He's the CMO and co-founder at DIFRactive Technologies. Garett, welcome to the show.
Hey, great to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on the show. I had one of your other co-founders on the radio version of the show, Daniel, and we had a really good conversation. And I thought, let's have you on the show and maybe get a little bit of a different perspective because I think like you guys have complementary skill sets. And so, but maybe before we get into all that fun stuff, let's get to know you a little bit better and start off with where you grew up.
Yeah, so I grew up in New York,
Okay,
about 30 minutes north of the city.
sure.
And then I went to school in Boston, which is where I met Dan.
Okay, what did you
Uh,
take in school?
I took marketing and finance.
Okay, and what made you want to take that? Was there like a defining moment in your childhood or something like that?
So I went to college not really sure of what I want to do. And when I took marketing 101, it was the first time in I don't know how long where it just clicked. I was just like,
Okay,
I get this. I think I'm going to be good at it. Let me pursue it. And just, understanding perceptions of people who are marketing majors only, I figured it would also be probably smart to have some financial knowledge as well for being an adult. So I
sure.
also took, took some finance
Yeah,
classes enough to become a major, but my main passion was finance,
sure,
was marketing. Yeah,
sure. No, I think it makes sense. Like just having financial knowledge of any kind, personally and professionally, is never going to be bad. So I think
exactly.
that's really great. So you get out of school. Walk me through kind of. You said you quickly mentioned you met Daniel kind of in school.
Yeah.
How did that kind of come to be?
So he was my RA senior
Okay.
year.
Okay.
Uh, Nicest RA ever, super cool. But we became fast friends
Okay.
the last semester, senior year. Karaoke bars, just
Awesome.
going out and enjoying just college. And I don't know, it just became a really good friendship, and we kept in touch after college to the point where he had an idea for a company, and he looped me in because of my marketing background, and we've been working on it ever since.
Sure. So walk me through why you guys actually decided to kind of found the company and what exactly do you guys do at DIFRactive?
Yeah, so I left college and I went to advertising, where
Okay.
I worked in digital marketing for about 3 or 4 years. And along the way, that's when Dan reached out to me. I was working at JWT,
Okay.
and he said he had this idea and he wanted to get some marketing expertise involved. And at the time, being so enraptured into marketing, you understand how important data is.
Yeah.
They constantly balk at new opportunities because there isn't enough data to validate that it's a good marketing strategy, which can be very frustrating from a digital, marketing standpoint. And so he was talking about this idea of interactive video, and the moment I heard it, I was like, yes, this makes sense because, I feel like video is the final frontier of data. Right now, we only have awareness or likes or shares, but it's such superficial, surface level engagement that it's hard to really understand what impact is having on the overall marketing funnel. And
Sure.
so I thought this would be a great opportunity to ensure that there'd be a more better understanding of what the video impact is having on people, and what product placement itself is actually doing to move the needle for a brand's bottom line. So he was coming at it from a finance movie perspective, where he's been working at Lionsgate and he wanted to find ways for independent movies to better fund themselves. And I was coming from a data analytics standpoint to figure out what is actually working in the video landscape and what do people actually want in the video landscape.
Sure.
And so that's kind of how we've been approaching it, and it's kind of formed into what we've done.
Okay. No, I think that's actually quite fascinating because you're right. Like it's really tricky, right, to kind of monetize your content kind of on and offline
Yeah,
with kind of traditional kind of means, right? And especially
exactly.
if you're not like a big studio. Obviously, most people making a film, unless you're one of the big kind of film companies, like can't afford to spend millions of dollars on advertising and all this other thing. So walk me through kind of exactly how your platform works. Like if I'm a customer of yours, how does it kind of work for me?
Yeah, so we're a SaaS platform. So
Okay.
we basically give you the keys to the castle. So you're a customer who signs in, and you create a project. And so as you're making this film, you're having an understanding of what's going to be in it. What do you want to kind of tag? So you make this movie. You're remembering the shirts you're wearing, the locations you're shooting at, the music you're using, characters that are in it, whatever information you want. Maybe even side charities that you think would be relevant to the topic at hand.
Oh, interesting.
So yeah, and so then when you're done with the film, you kind of break up the movie into scenes. So you have, the kitchen scene, you have the restaurant scene, and as someone's watching it, they can save those scenes. So whatever you want to put in that scene, which could be minute 1 to minute 4.5, or it could be minute 1:15 to minute 1:20, depending on how short those scenes you want to be. And as people are going, they're going to save those scenes. And so you just drop those items, whether it's product, people, places, music, into those scenes so they can timestamp that scene.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, like the thing that's fascinating to me about what you guys are doing is like it's a pretty simple kind of idea, but it took like well not I there was like kind of a version a long time ago, I think, that somebody maybe tried, but it was like I can't remember, was it on like DVDs or Blu-ray or something, and it you had to have like a special hardware or something, if I remember correctly. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't, but I do know the idea has been around for a while. Like it's kind of been a bit of a struggle on our end because when we come up to people with this idea, they're like, "Oh, I've heard about it and it didn't work." And I think what we're trying to convey is that we're in a different time than in the late '90s, early aughts. Is mobile is everywhere. Video is the main consumption. There's actually a report that came out last week that said people are going to spend more time online than watching TV for the first time ever next year. And with SVODs, AVODs, any VOD out there, it's just the way people are consuming content is just completely different, and they're wanting way more than just pause, rewind, and fast forward.
Sure. Well, and I think what I was gonna try to get at, and you touched on it, is, and maybe I'm sure people can relate to this. Like, how many people nowadays don't have cable, or maybe they do have cable, or they have cable through something like YouTube TV or some other Hulu or whatever. It doesn't matter.
Yep.
Or watch YouTube. Like they are consuming cable or movies or content on their devices outside of their traditional TV, right? And so,
Yep.
They could have both, but with your guys' technology, if they're already on their phone watching something, they can just be like, I like that shirt in that scene, just order it. Like,
Exactly.
right? And so, sure, maybe somebody's seen what you guys are doing now a decade ago, but that it's kind of irrelevant, right? Because back then the smartphone wasn't a smartphone, so it didn't exist. So, like, I think it makes you guys are almost kind of at the perfect time now to bring this technology forward, and why I kind of wanted to have you guys on the show originally when I met Daniel a couple months ago. But for people that maybe, how does it kind of work from like, do I need to have a video, or how does it kind of work from a content creation standpoint? Like you mentioned, I cut it up in scenes, but like, can I do kind of other videos with it if I'm not maybe making like a movie per se or a TV episode?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, we can do a 30-second video.
Okay.
It really depends on what you want. And they could be one scene that if they engage or they don't engage, they'll see it all there. It's just really about adding that deeper experience to the video. And so something that I think is important is we're in a environment where the people's choice matters. Like it's not do this or it's gone forever. It's, give people the option to do it as they want to experience. There's so many different journeys people take along the way to actually buying something that it's really hard to tell them this is the only way to do it. And if you miss it, you lose it. And so the way we've kind of been setting this up is we understand that when people watch TV, the next step is to search it. And so when you do that transition, you lose a chunk of people. So we're streamlining that. Another issue is the fact that when we tell people buy it now, then they're going to give them the pressure of, do I want it now or do I forget about it? And so we're giving the people the ability to save to their own profile, which is an ability that, one, gives brands the ability to retarget them later on, but also gives them the personal satisfaction that they don't need to figure out this decision right now. They can come back to it later where it's waiting for them. They can explore. And also another thing about choice is people don't want to necessarily be like, this is the product I want, or this is the product and this is the only thing available. There's so much more information, like we mentioned earlier, that people might be interested. When we were doing initial surveys, a big chunk of people didn't even say they were interested in clothing. They were interested in the location or the music used. So we really just want to give people as many choices to explore on their own, and then let them kind of figure out on their own doing what they want to explore more about.
Sure. Well, the other thing too that I think is interesting that you touched on quickly there was, like, if I'm loyal to a brand and I start seeing their new products or get recommended that stuff, it's less like traditional kind of advertising, right? Because you're like, oh, this brand has a new line out, or they're a new shirt or whatever. Like, there's a lot of people that are very loyal to certain brands, right? And so if they can see kind of a 30-second ad of a new, like, I don't know, skateboard line or like t-shirt or something, and they're like, oh, I really want that, they just add it and buy it. You're right, it kind of takes the frustration of actually going to Amazon after and like remembering, right? Because I've found even myself where like, oh, I'll check that out later, but later never comes, right?
Exactly.
So it makes a lot of sense that I could just like add it to my profile and then kind of really actually go back to it later or buy it right now.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And there's so many bands that I've found out through commercials. I mean, and like it's for me, like I have to go like to adweek.com to get the credits to find out. And that's just because I'm very familiar with where I can find this information. But if I didn't know, I'd have to either Shazam it or I don't know, just like Google it for potentially forever just to like figure out Tame Impala was in this BlackBerry commercial, I don't know, I guess it was 7 years ago when I first heard about Tame Impala.
Sure. Yeah. I remember that commercial actually. Yeah, that's interesting. So where do you kind of see the space going? Because in a lot of cases, I think we're kind of at the beginning of this kind of like, advertising's kind of the wrong word for it, but like almost like smart advertising, for lack of a better term. Or do you have a phrase that or statement for that?
I'm trying to just describe it as interactive product integration.
Okay.
So, we've had product placement, as far as soap operas, or Reese's in ET, but it's always been an awareness play. And so now what we're seeing is brands are actively integrating themselves into copy, into, being more visible, where it's not just product placement. They're actually like pushing it socially. They're trying to, so what we're trying to do is make it interactive, where it's not just a part of the storyline anymore. It's actually something that people can learn more about straight from the video itself.
Sure. So is eventually the plan to, because like I know like if you're in a movie theater or something, you can like interact with questions on the screen through like an app or a cell phone. Like, are you guys working towards that at some point? Because I think that's potentially where you guys could go at least.
So this is actually funny, something me and Dan debate about. I cherish the movie experience. So I hate it when I see someone whipping out their phone to like text or anything like that. Like,
sure.
So I have made a very hard stance, and I never want to be in the movie, environment, just because there's like a safe place, and I feel like movies are the last place where you can be hopefully distraction free. But no, I do agree that the integration with devices to larger screens like TV, that's definitely where we want to go, because there is a second screen device, and I think Dan might have mentioned this, but like smart TVs, they're not giving you controllers anymore. They're giving you apps to control your TV. So all we would need to do is add that button that we incorporate in our software into that, which is a simple, app update at that point. So it's definitely feasible. We're looking, we're going to be looking into it, down the road, but because SVOD is taking away from cable, as you mentioned, the TV is not going away. It's just how people are using the
Yeah.
TV is changing. So we know that the majority of people still watch content, like the big content on TV. It's just how can we get that interactivity on, that non-interactive interface.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I suppose you could eventually move it either into traditional kind of cable. You could
Yep.
also do it kind of on demand stuff like Netflix, for example, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, okay, interesting.
That's the dream.
Yeah, no, fair. But I think you guys are, kind of well on your way to getting into that space, right? And I know kind of some of the advisors that you guys kind of have as well, and that are kind of huge names in the TV kind of space, right? And
Yeah.
so it's pretty cool what you guys have been able to accomplish in a pretty short period of time.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, no. So I think it's interesting, right? So where do you though kind of see the state of maybe not just like cable, but just the industry? Like we've mentioned that it's obviously going through a bit of a kind of a transition, but do you kind of have any, maybe not predictions, but things that you've kind of seen that will kind of maybe get people thinking about some of this stuff? Because you have the cord cutter stuff. People are like, well, I don't really want that, or I want cable. I want just like, people basically want to pick what they want to watch when they want to watch it, and they don't really care how they get it. That's my opinion.
Yeah. No, I mean, there's definitely a lot of things that are happening right now that it's kind of an interesting shift, because what's happening with Facebook and YouTube is they are, tweaking the algorithms, so they're making sure that content doesn't land in inappropriate places, and like, you're not exposing people to inappropriate content along the way. And so what that's doing is that's reducing people's organic reach.
Okay.
And so in simultaneously, YouTube and Facebook, along with Netflix and Hulu, they're investing a lot in their own content. So YouTube and Facebook are putting, I think, $1 billion each into their own content to make sure that they can build a SVOD channel. But what that's also doing is they're now relying less on UGC. People are going to Facebook not to watch, cat videos anymore, but they're going to be watching, curated content that YouTube has approved. And so people are going to be getting less ads because they're getting less exposure. YouTube doesn't need to, pay them as much because they have a content library similar to what Netflix is doing. They're building their own content library that they don't need to rely on the studios anymore. So think of the UGCers as the studios to Netflix. Like, they're no longer relying on that. So like, Disney's going to swipe out a ton of content from Netflix, but they've already have this library that makes them so robust that they really don't need that Disney reliance anymore. So Netflix is gonna be fine. And so now what UGCers should be doing, and we're seeing it from BuzzFeed, we're seeing it from a lot of other big publishers, is they're using YouTube as a video host, but they're not using YouTube as a social media channel to promote and get that viralness. They're trying to get people to go to their site where they can then control the ad placements there. So they don't need to rely on the YouTube ads as their mainstream of revenue. They can now put banner ads in their site, and they know that they're going to be migrating people to their site, so they can get that traffic to get the same amount of revenue. So
interesting.
I think the trend is more ownership of their own content, which is actually great for us because we can't work on YouTube. We can work on top of YouTube videos, but the actual site itself, it doesn't. So as people move to their site, we're actually just waiting for them, being like, hey, now that you control the video content, your IP, you can now also control the experience because this is your site. So, now there's a software that does not interrupt your content, which is what we actually really differentiate ourselves on, is the fact that we put content first. We don't want to make people feel like they're being shoved products in their face. It's more organic. It's like, hey, I like this. Let me just bookmark it and then save it for later. So as people make the shift, we're hoping that they see the benefit and the new, I guess, monetization strategies that they can continue to, I guess, work towards using our software.
No, that makes a lot of sense, right? And I think we are really well positioned to basically move there if we haven't already started to really move there. And you're right, like a lot of companies are embedding their content kind of on their own sites, which makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
You guys, do you just work with YouTube, or you work with other platforms as well, right?
We're video agnostic,
Yeah,
so
that's
we
what I thought.
every platform. And if we don't work on it, all we just need to do is finagle our code to be able to work on it. But at the end of the day, to our point is we want to be helpful to them. We don't want to tell a content creator what you are doing is wrong. Use our platform, and that's the end goal. We want to be like, hey, still get your reviews on YouTube. Even if it's on your site, you'll still get your reviews. Even if it's on Vimeo, you'll still get your reviews. But now there's this extra component that gets you more engagement to be able to go to products or brands and be like, hey, I'm getting 30% engagement and a 5% click-through rate on your products. Use me as a platform. And now they'll be able to have the data to be able to negotiate and make sure they're not getting swindled either. They'll be able to hardline and be like, I'm adding X amount of value to your brand. So if you want me to use this brand or this product in my video, I will require this amount of money.
Yeah, no, and that makes sense, right? And I think more and more people are, well, you're not selling to them, right? Like it's funny because my daughter, for example, she's 3. Just she doesn't understand, like, you can't fast forward live TV. She's just like, can you fast forward? You're like, no, like, yeah, she just doesn't get that. But I think, like, as I would even say, like, I don't like watching commercials typically, right? Yeah. So like what you guys are building is like almost like an alternate to the commercial, right? Because it's more relevant. Because if I'm watching a show about, I don't know, like sports or something, and there's like a beer commercial, it's relevant, right? But if you're watching like, like a Friends, for example, and it could be something totally, but if I see like something in that actual episode, it feels less like you're selling to me and more like you're almost providing a convenience, if that's kind of a...
No, absolutely. And I was actually talking the other day. So there is a report that came out that talked about how people don't like ads. Shocker. And so, design thinking is kind of something that's really big in advertising right now, and I think in other businesses. But it kind of made us think, what if in 5-10 years, as YouTube stops relying less on UGCers, and they're building their own SPOT and they don't need ads anymore, we could potentially be in a world where there's no ads. So what are brands going to do to get their exposure? And everyone kind of, when we go to these networking or these like conferences, like we went to Digital Hollywood and I asked this question, it seems like the balance is either ads or subscription. And there's no in between. Yeah. And I think that, in our opinion, the in between is that interactive product integration, where brands can seamlessly interact, where they don't need to make sure that it says drink Bud Light.
Yeah.
5. Okay. Like.
Yeah. Fair.
Exactly. So it could be a more subtle, seamless content integration where people are getting actually better content and they're also getting the brands that they want. They don't need to be shoved like, hey, this is a Heineken bottle placed on this counter. It's just like, oh, what are they drinking? Yeah. And now see what information they're drinking.
Yeah, because you bring up an interesting point, because you can very much see in a show or movie or any time where it's very much like, exactly. It's like kind of just like forced on you awkwardly, right? And I find it distracts, right? But you're right. Like if I'm holding something and actually like drinking something, like it's less sleazy, I think is the best way to put it.
It's more of a pull versus a push.
Yeah, okay.
And pull is way more effective in terms of getting the engagement and getting genuine interest. If you like push something and then they search it and then they don't do anything with it, you still don't have a sale. If someone is actively reaching out to understand what that person's drinking, you not only have, awareness, you're going to have consideration. And then that just gets them one step down the funnel to eventually potential purchase.
Sure. Well, and two, like if I have my products on Amazon, for example, and I use your guys' software and I just link out to go buy it from Amazon and I have Prime, it shows up in a couple like you simplified my life, basically, right?
You're welcome.
Yeah. But Garett, we're kind of coming to the end of the show, so let's close with mentioning where people can kind of get more information about you guys and actually check out the platform.
Yeah, we are at DIFRactive.com, DIFRactive.com. Think different kind of interactive. But yeah, we're on social media, same thing, DIFRactive. LinkedIn. You can reach me at Garett, Garett, at diffractive.com. Happy to talk. Always looking to meet new people.
Perfect, man. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to be on the show, and I look forward to keeping in touch with you, and have a good rest of your day.
Yeah, thanks, man.
All
Appreciate
right.
it.
Thanks. Okay, bye.
Bye.